Today, we're going to be going over drawing a sphere. Now, notice in this thing, there's no big black outline around this sphere. If we're doing a line drawing, it'd be perfectly acceptable to put a line around it as a placeholder, as a boundary, as an imaginary boundary between objects. But in the value drawing, I just need to read that the top of the sphere is a different value than what's behind it. So in this case, the actual wooden sphere is darker than the door behind it. And if I put a big black outline around that, I lose all of that. So if I jump in and I draw a sphere, good, bad, ugly, the sphere, and I go, well, as a cast shadow too, and I put these in, I'm basically giving myself this like cartoon style parameters, a coloring book. This is the worst way of doing a value drawing, where I make a coloring book, then I fill it in. Not doing that here. So I use a small piece of charcoal, broken down to half or a third, so I can draw with it on its side. And I start to lay in some value. I'm basically trying to put some dark around the sphere. I use vine charcoal to lay in a quick, easy sphere. And now I'm laying in some darks. So all my drawing is done with the side of the charcoal. I'm not tilting it up to make an edge. And I'm basically just putting some value down. Remember, everything around the ball counts as well. I can't just ignore that. I'm not trying to make my marks on the outside follow around it too much because it ends up looking like a weird halo. My very favorite drawing tool is a 3-inch bristle brush, also called a chip brush. It's cheap, $1.50, $2, and I use it to, in place of a chamois, to knock down the charcoal. And you notice I'm not going across it like lightly brushing it. I'm trying to scrub that charcoal into the paper and all across the paper. It quiets the whole drawing down so I can build it back up again. Now it's easy to come back in with my eraser, and I'm drawing to add light back into it. I take the paper off right away, and I draw with the whole eraser. And I can erase back out and keep trying to find my shape as I go. Table edge runs down, picks up that cast shadow, and I can shape that cast shadow as I go. You use the eraser to carve the light back in. It's lighter behind the ball here than on the shadow side of the ball, so I'm going to carve that in. It's lighter back here, and that table edge pops up here. And starts to give me the other side of the ball. Drawing what's behind it is as important as drawing the object itself. It's all the same thing. It's all back and forth and back and forth. When my eraser gets dirty and black like that, I have another side, that's fine. I also have a piece of sandpaper stuck to a block of wood that I just run across it and it cleans my eraser easy. A dirty eraser smudges charcoal, a clean eraser will pull it off the paper. I don't want you to think of the eraser anymore as a correction tool. It's a bringer of light. After I've brought the light with my eraser, I run back through with my brush again, knock it all down. This is back and forth, back and forth. Charcoal, brush it down. Eraser, brush it down. Back and forth, back and forth. I get that darkest part of the object right around the base of it. I got the core shadow, which is in between the light side, the midtone, so it's in between the midtone and the shadow side, and the bounced light from the reflected light on the bottom. So the core shadow is that deepest part of the shadow. Remember, it goes light, midtone, shadow, core shadow, reflected light, cast shadow. Occlusion shadow is that bit in there where the bounced light can't get to. And it's just back and forth like that, trying to find the shape of everything. It's much bigger cast shadow. By making the space behind the ball darker, I'm making the bright side of the ball appear brighter. It's all relative. Light thing looks light because it's next to a darker thing, and the other way around. So brushing back down in between the layers, in between adding charcoal and then brush it down, and then eraser and brush it down, adds generations to the drawing. This brushing down in between is a critical step. So it's not a straight line. I know, it's curved. It's not a straight line where you're adding the darks and they stay there, and you put the lights and they stay there. It's much better to process here, where it's back and forth, where you find your lights, you lose them as you add the darks. You find your darks, you lose them as you bring the lights back. And that back and forth gives a much more dynamic drawing than you ever could by filling in the blanks of a coloring book. Coloring books are a direct path to, you start you fill in all the shapes and you're done. That's not this. The back and forth makes for a much more dynamic drawing. Here, I've worked the whole push-pull of the drawing, the pushing in the dark, the pulling out of light, back and forth, back and forth. I've made the darks darker, lights lighter. Here, you can see that the reflected light bouncing back in down here should never be as bright as the direct light striking the object, because it's already lost part of its energy by striking the floor here. So my style is much more quick and dirty and loose and free. So that's not necessarily to say that's how your drawing should be. If you're more specific and controlled, great. But this method of back and forth is kind of what you're looking for. It'll make you stronger no matter what your drawing style preferences are. I feel like I don't have the highlight quite strong enough yet. So I can do that by taking some of the, I can't just keep erasing this out. I can only erase it as much as it goes. I can only get back to that stained white paper. That's not bad. But if I need to keep adding in darks here, I wouldn't just add charcoal. I could take my dirty brush and start to knock that down and add some darkness back into it again, or reshape my highlight differently like that. If I feel like my bounce lights are too bright, I can quiet those down by just scrubbing across it and even all that out again. Again, it's a back and forth, back and forth. Well, with that, you have the basic process of how to find all the parts of a sphere. Remember, all the paper counts. So what's beneath it, what's behind it, all that stuff's part of it. So your assignment is to find a sphere in your home, a ball, a grapefruit, whatever you can get your hands on, and a lamp, as we discussed in the previous post on here, and set it up and start doing drawings of that sphere, they should take the first about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. Do one, get it out of your system, and then go again. Your second drawing should take about an hour. You don't want to rush through it. You want to take your time and process and really find it. Use the full page. If you hurry through it, it kind of shows, so take your time. I'm more worried about the drawing than I am the amount of time spent. But a rush drawing always looks like a rush drawing. So, have fun, go play, figure this thing out. You got it.